Hello/X/, I'm gonna cut to the chase because I think this is something that you will all find interesting. Gonna give a little bit of background information and then jump into Greentext to make it easier to follow. I'm a former Russian national who served in the Soviet Army from 1983 up until just before the USSR collapsed. I was only 18 years of age when I joined up with the military. It had always been an aspiration of mine to serve my country due to my father being a high-ranking member of the Soviet Union Army, a starshий sergeant, which I think is roughly equivalent to a sergeant major in the United States military. From a young age, he instilled in me a great feeling of pride and patriotism for my country, and all I ever wanted to do was be like my father was. I fled my country after the collapse of the Soviet Union and have been living in OA, Poland, since 1991, first as an asylum seeker seeking refuge from war, until I eventually was granted a citizenship here through naturalization after living here for long enough. I changed my name, I changed my identity. There is nothing linking me to my old life or family in the Soviet Union, and that's why I feel comfortable finally telling this story. Due to my father's growing influence in the military, it only took me about a year and a half, so around the beginning of 1985, for me to be moved up in the ranks and to be trusted with a special assignment. My father briefed me initially, telling me it was a role of great honor and that I should feel blessed that I have been trusted with such a task. I really had no choice but to accept it. I was assigned by the Soviet Union to be a guard at Sektor12B, a Soviet test facility that had been erected in 1969 in the border zone between the borders of Russia and Estonia. It was apparently a facility of strategic importance and was of the utmost importance that no information about it should ever leak and that it should be protected at all costs. I think that's about all the context you need. I'm gonna green text the experiences I had with possibly some context in between if needed. If you want to ask me about stuff, I'll try my best to answer. Here goes. First day being assigned to Sektor12B. Incredibly nervous as I have only been serving in the Soviet Union Army for around a year and a half before being given this post. My father himself personally escorts me to this facility to show me around. I cannot express how rare and unusual this fact is. Someone of father's rank usually would never bother escorting someone like me, regardless of familial connection. Roll up to the place in a Kozlik truck. My father is in the front with the driver. Me and two other soldiers in the back. I have no idea what rank they are or if they're newly assigned like I am. Was taught very early on that small talk and asking questions was a one-way ticket to getting beaten or worse. Finally arrive. We all get out of the truck, and I see the place for the first time. Building was a random abandoned cement factory. Looked like an absolute pile of shit, even for the Soviet Union standards. Building had half-smashed windows and looked to be halfway sunken into the ground like it was being eaten up by the earth. Area was very hot. Massive military presence. Hard to spot if you're not looking though. Father walks way ahead of us. Me and the other soldiers from the vehicle are very awkwardly meandering at a distance behind him. Soldiers at the gate stop him. Not just a show me your credentials type thing. The soldiers at the gate full on block him and push him away when he tries to walk through. Father loses it completely. Starts going on a crazy rant to the two soldiers. Both of them just standing there with a 1,000-yard stare, not even properly taking notice. Still won't move. Father starts yelling out "AEO!" over and over again. Father hits one of them. Not a light slap or anything, full-on powerhouse of a punch. Everyone rushes over. Father is restrained. Another officer comes walking out of the building. Isn't panicked or anything. He's just casually strolling over. Motions to his men and they let go of Father. They exchange a few words, with him motioning towards me and the other soldiers that came with us, and then the officer leads my father in. We try to follow them into the building, but once we cross the gate threshold to the outside part of the building, the officers there grab us and shout he OOC. No choice but to comply. Wait there until they're done. Father comes back out and walks straight past me. Doesn't say a word. Just gets back into the kozlik and leaves. That was just my first day. It was strange to say the least. When I tell you that I did not see inside that place for months on end, I am not exaggerating. The place was locked up tight. For months I basically had to live outside in the compound area, mainly working on guard duty and sometimes on lookout overnight. 3 weeks into my assignment is when I got my next dose of weird. Late night at Sector 12B. On lookout duty. Technically, I'm here to stop people from crossing the border, but in actuality I'm here to stop people from getting close to the facility. On very strict orders. They do not play around here. Anyone, Russian, Estonian, my own father, shoot on sight. No warning shots. Around 3 a.m., starting to get bored. Struggling to keep my eyes open at this point. Only a few of us awake. 5 at most, I believe. Outside, that is, no idea how many are awake inside. Messing around with my SVD. Scratched ya into the side of it because I thought I was cool. See a faint glint in the distance. Pull out binoculars and try to take a closer look. Looking intently. Briefly notice a sort of light blue glow that moves from out of a body of water and quickly onto the land. I pull out my rifle and brace myself. The second I get a clear view, I'm shooting. Comes into full view, probably about 400-ish meters away from the compound. Looks to be a human. Completely waterlogged with what looks like algae all over their clothes. Light blue glow is gone. No idea what that was. Sound an alert and then begin firing. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3, 4. I can't hit the thing. They're running on all fucking fours. Manage to graze their left leg, which causes them to stumble. A huge wave of soldiers are piling out of the inner facility at this point, shouting and screaming like someone has just declared war. Front gate soldiers are busting ass down range to flank the thing and to get a clear shot. I stop firing because I don't trust myself not to hit them accidentally. 2 shots. Silence. I'm not supposed to, but I climb down from the watchtower and run with the other soldiers out to the body. WTF. Seriously cannot believe my eyes. Body is spasming. Eyes are bloodshot. The sclera looks like it is tinted yellow ever so slightly. Lots of weird marks on his arms, especially around the veins. Notice something sticking out of his wrist. Get pulled away by a few of the inner facility soldiers. Hear commander shouting aggressively from behind my head. They have me fully restrained and have thrown me to the ground. They pull me around to see the commander and I meet his eyes. He is beyond furious. Epo oh yep, is what I hear over and over again. Demanding to know why I left my post and why I'm here without being ordered to. Commander personally proceeds to beat the shit out of me. Go limp and unconscious. After that I woke up in a holding cell inside the facility with some ice taped to my face. The holding cell was secluded from everywhere else, so I did not get a good look at the place at all. I think I was kept in there for about 3 weeks while they were conducting an investigation. They didn't tell me anything, but my father's name was mentioned. About 3 days before I got released from the holding cell, one of the officers who was berated by my father came to my cell. He didn't come in, he just looked at me behind the bars for a few minutes, then said "Tai, AO" and then spat on the floor before leaving. Guess he was convinced I was guilty of something. That was only the beginning of my complex time there. I have only a few more strange things that I can tell you about, but I'll save for the last, the one that truly opened my eyes and made me fear for my life. Month 4 of my assignment to the place. Have been allowed into the facility a couple of times, mainly just the top level for sleep and supplies. More on that later. Comrades still don't fully trust me, but they're coming to around to accepting me being there. Haven't made any friends, but there's one guy, Sektor, who I'm familiar with. He often relieves me from watchtower duty, and if I'm lucky will make some small talk with me if he's especially bored. Like everyone else here, he's very serious. Typical night, nothing going on. Bored as usual, around 5 minutes left of my duty. Get to rest for 3 hours total before my next duty. Lucky me. See Sektor making his way over. I call him Sasha every time I see him, and he gives me a death stare each time, so I start to climb down from my post. Hear a massive commotion coming from inside the facility. Incredibly unusual. Very rare that we see or hear anyone stationed inside, especially if they work in the lower levels. I assume we're segregated to stop the flow of information. Essentially, once you start working down there is where you stay. Really loud now. Screaming and banging of something metallic is all we can hear. They must be close to the main entrance. I'm at the bottom of the watchtower. Sasha has now made his way fully over and is staring blankly at the entrance. Entrance slams open. Squadron of 6 facility workers in a strict formation, leading someone out. The person they're leading out is on a metal chain that is attached around their neck. Squadron is screaming "E-cop, E-cop" again and again. The person on the chain is barely being kept on their feet, they keep scrambling to try and get down on the floor. It's like they've forgotten how to walk. Sasha is facing away from the entrance and at the watchtower. He is begging me to turn away. I can't. I genuinely cannot stop looking. There are tears streaming down his face. He is pleading with me, "Oaka, py, Oaka." Still looking at what is going on. Try to ask Sasha what the hell that thing is, but he keeps choking on his words. The person has visible veins bulging on all parts of their body, mainly on their face. The veins are tinted a slight yellowish color. They are barefoot. Looks like they have partial gangrene on both ends of their feet. Sasha grabs me and forcefully turns me around. He grabbed me by the hair and was holding my face into the ground. Mouth has dirt in it, can barely manage to say "Eposaya, ce" because of the way he's holding me. Tells me to shut the fuck up. Hear shouting coming from the direction of the squadron becoming more intense. Can hear a sort of moaning or growling that's growing in intensity. No idea what it is. Leader of the squadron is yelling furiously now, telling some guy "Ka-ee epic." Hear a sudden gunshot. Hear a roar that sounds like it would break someone's vocal cords. Sounds raspy and full of phlegm. Hear a faint whimper before the squadron walk on out of the gate and into the forest. Only know this because I could hear the moaning growing fainter and fainter in that direction. Commander steps out, tells us all to get back to positions. Sasha looks beside himself. Lets go of me and very meekly climbs up the watchtower to his assignment. I rush inside to try and get as much rest as I can before my next assignment. 2 hours-ish go by. Still awake in the bunk, impossible to sleep. Couldn't stop thinking about what I saw. Wasn't sure if my eyes were lying to me at the time, but reflecting on it in bed made me wonder a little more. The guy with the chain around his neck, the yellow-tinted veins and the gangrenous feet were not the only things I noticed. Had a scar over his stomach, like a C-section scar, but it was clearly a man. Had what looked to be frostbite on one of his hands, blotchy skin with solid black on the ends of the fingers. Not just that, but near the stomach scar, almost parallel vertically to his shoulder, there looked to be some kind of appendage that was attached by being stitched on. Weird, more than weird. Fucking crazy. No wonder they don't want any of us to see inside. I only got to interact with Sasha a handful more times after that. It's a real shame. One more notable thing happened before my last story. Not just notable, something completely out of the ordinary in regard to my duties. Trying to sleep, still 1 hour left before guard duty. Gonna be alone in silence for about the next 10 hours a little ways down the road watching for anyone trying to approach. Suddenly get a kick in the ribs. Told to get the fuck up immediately. An officer with a higher rank than me. Does not look pleased to see me. Tells me I have a special assignment that needs to be completed right now. Didn't even think to make a case for my sleep. Didn't want another kick in the ribs. Assigned to a team with 3 other soldiers. One of them I recognize. He came with me in the Kozlik. It's me, him, 2 others I haven't seen before and the squad leader, Mikhail. Receive a very quick briefing. We've been assigned away from the compound. There's apparently an old settlement around 10 kilometers away from Sektor12B. Has been abandoned for years. Used to be an old mining settlement. Not sure what was being mined there. Don't tell me what we're being sent there for. Told we'll find out once we're there. We get in the truck and drive off. Takes roughly 40 minutes for us to get there because the road is poor quality. Potholes every few meters, also have to be vigilant for anyone crossing or possible enemy reconnaissance. Roll up to the place. Exactly like they said it would be. Complete and utter ghost town. We get out of the truck and line up to wait for instructions. Mikhail tells us that the water supply here is likely contaminated. We are to bring back samples for the facility to run tests on. They are apparently worried that it could spread if we don't discover the source of the contamination. Split into 2 groups of 2 while Mikhail waits at the truck. Mikhail opts for screaming orders down the radio rather than any manual labor. I'm paired with Kozlik guy because of course. We venture into the town. Nothing weird about it at all. It's eerie and silent but we expected that. Bothered me for some reason but couldn't tell why. Most likely I had been at the facility for so long that any silence at all now triggered alarm bells in me. Track down the water source, follow it south to the bottom of the town down an incline. Water stops and sort of pools into a small pond outside the entrance to a mine shaft. Water doesn't stop there, actually goes into the cave/mining shaft itself through a smallish opening. Radio back what we found. Mention that the water looks fine from what we can tell. Little bits of rock and dirt and what looks like some rags inside of it but no contamination. Didn't actually know it wasn't contaminated, just figured it would be glowing a weird color if it was. Mikhail is hurling abuse at us. Asks us why we haven't gone inside the shaft yet. Don't have a reply. Start to make our way in. At this point we're kind of wondering where the other 2 are since the water source wasn't particularly difficult to find and it didn't seem like it flowed out from anywhere else. But we assumed that maybe they headed back to the truck after we radioed into Mikhail or maybe they didn't want to bother with such a menial task at all and decided to leave it to the newbies. Probably thought it was beneath them. Start to make our way in. I end up leading the way. Still not really sure what we're looking for in here. Doesn't look like the water runs into this part. Mineshaft is weirdly lit up. Looks as if the mineshaft was still being used. Very strange. Town was obviously abandoned for a long time. Other soldiers, I guess? Make our way further in, goes fairly deep. Walk for a good few minutes without stopping. The further we go down, the more faint the lighting is becoming. Mikhail didn't give us any flashlights. Didn't realize we'd be exploring somewhere like this. Get to the threshold of darkness and go to radio Mikhail. My dumb ass really thought that the radio would work down here. Tell Kozlik guy that we should head back up and radio that we can't go any further. Start to hear a moaning sound. Sounds very familiar. Sound is moving towards us. Not moving very quickly. Sound of rock and dust being kicked. I turned to Kozlik guy, and we both decided to run. We make it back to the entrance and radio back into Mikhail. As soon as he hears my voice he asks if it's in there. What? Asks me if I saw it? What the fuck are you talking about? You told me we were here for water samples. I tell him about the sounds we heard. He starts to respond and then stops. Won't respond for the next 5 minutes until he makes it over to our location with the other 2 soldiers in tow. By the time they all made it over, the thing sounds like it's close to the entrance. We see its arms come out into the light first, followed by its body and then its legs. It's a human. Thank God. But maybe I spoke too soon. The guy looks absolutely fucked up. Skin is peeling all over the face and arms. Thick layers of it hanging off the body which is highlighted by the harsh sunlight. His face is completely mutilated. His nose is gone from his face. There's only a gaping hole where his nose should be. His mouth is odd. Looks bigger than it should be, maybe 3 times the size of a normal mouth. Lips are blue and look like they're throbbing. Ears are missing earlobes and have random bits of skin drooping off of them. Dude is just walking slowly on all fours, not really paying attention to any of us. He's moving towards us but it's like he doesn't even really realize that we're here. Before I can ask Mikhail WTF is going on, he speaks up, "Ea Saya." Unleashes a full mag from his Kalashnikov into both the head and the heart of the guy. After the firing stops the guy kind of takes one more step, if you can call it that, and then slumps to the floor and starts to spasm. Mikhail asks us if he has to do everything ourselves. I ask Mikhail what is going on, what the thing is, why we're here. He hits me with the butt of his Kalashnikov, knocking me to the ground. I yell out and he hits me a few more times in the head and then kicks me a few times. Tells me that it's none of my business and to shut up and follow orders. Orders the other 2 soldiers into the truck, tells Kozlik guy to take that water sample they were after. Hands him a vial. He walks over to the stream. Mikhail puts a bullet into him which causes him to fall into the water. I can barely muffle my scream when I see it happen. He spits on me and tells me I'm lucky. Tells me that they still have a use for me. Says I'm lucky that my father is who he is. Tells me to forget what I saw, or I'll die very soon. Still to this day I have no idea why he didn't kill me. The other 2 soldiers must have been here for a long time and were trusted to keep the secret. Not that I had any idea what I saw anyway. There wasn't exactly much I could tell people. My guess is that me and the Kozlik guy were being used as bait, but then I don't know, maybe someone informed Mikhail that he took the wrong guy and was on strict orders not to kill me. Maybe he just took the first 2 new guys he could see and that's why there was a mix-up. I only have one more incident to tell you about my time there. It's one that I still can't fully understand and it's possible that I never will. Beginning of 1986. Been at the facility for around a year at this point. Get brought in from my duties early and I'm put in front of the commander. Tells me that I have a very important assignment. Says they've been gauging my level of patriotism and concluded that I qualify for this assignment. Tells me I'll be working guard duty in the lower levels of Sector 12B. It's finally time. When I first got here, this would have filled me with excitement. Now, I'm just hoping that I don't fuck anything up and make it through unscathed. Escorted down there by some unfamiliar soldiers. Guessing they were posted at lower levels and that's why. Lead me down a disgusting stairwell. Smells like shit mixed with chemicals. Stairwell was crumbling in places. Reach the bottom and they take me down a corridor. Reach a dead end. They open up a hatch in the floor. Old style ladder attached to the wall like you would see in a sewer. They jab me in the back, signaling me to go down first. Saying a prayer in my head at this point. I'm thinking back to what Mikhail said and hoping I'm not about to die for what I saw. Soldiers don't come down after me. They tell me to just walk. I walk through some tunnels that winded but only went in one direction without any split paths. Reach a bulkhead door. Have no idea what to do, so I knock on it. Alarm starts going off, whole place turns red. Oh fuck. Bulkhead doesn't open, camera in the corner lights up. Hear screaming coming from a tannoy in the corner, telling me to kneel and put my hands behind my head if I don't want to die right now. Comply as fast as I can. A group of soldiers funnel out and restrain and blindfold me. Finally have my blindfold taken off. I'm in a corridor looking into a room with a glass window. Lots of equipment set up. Medical equipment. No idea what half of it is for. 000x2248. 3.41 megabytes. I only get one instruction the entire time I'm in these lower levels: stand in that corner, do not move. If the patient moves, you shoot. What? I don't say this out loud, of course. I was stationed in that room for a total of 5 hours. I was to look straight ahead, say nothing, make no noise and ignore everything that was going on unless I had to take action. This wasn't a regular patient at all. The guy definitely looked Russian. That's probably all I could tell you about him before the surgery started. I'll Greentext that now. The guy is wheeled in on a bed. He has so many straps holding him down. Straps on his head, his arms, and his legs. Completely passed out. 3 men in surgical gear walk in. They ignore me. I expected that. I ignore them too as best as I can. Agonizing 5 hours. They make incisions in the patient. No idea what for. A little while into it, they inject the patient with something. Trying my hardest to look without looking. Needle looks to be filled with something that's black. Just black, nothing else. After they inject the patient, they wait for around 15 minutes. Just checking the guy's vitals. After the time is up, they start making more cuts. One incision below the eye, one just above the left bicep. They're looking at each other and nodding. Start to make a massive incision around the abdomen area. Almost the whole way across. Guy on the table starts to twitch. I start to get nervous. Can't completely see what they're doing as I'm trying to only look out of my peripheral vision, and I'm on the left side of the room. The 3 are crowded around him slightly, so can basically only see half of the body. Looks like they're stitching him up. They inject him several more times with what looks like the same substance. Completely black. Guy twitches again. Eyes open. I hesitate in my head for a second but then start to point my gun. One of the guys in surgical gear puts up his hand towards me without even looking my way. Tells me no. Not yet. He needs 5 more minutes. I begin to speak but he cuts me off. I don't care about your orders. I have mine. He says. I decide to leave him be. The straps look safe enough but if he moves another time I will shoot. I am not going to risk my own life for him. All of them start to take a step back. They are now well into my eye line. I turn around and watch too. The guy on the table is absolutely writhing. The skin in his wrists is bulging. It looks like the lumps are traveling up his arms. His veins are becoming more and more visible and are starting to tint yellow. He is pulling violently against the restraints. The whole table is rocking back and forth. I go to shoot, the surgeon begs me for 1 more minute. I tell him no. I can't risk anything more. The straps holding down the man's head suddenly snaps, and the man raises his head slightly and looks directly at us. He is straining against the neck strap to keep his head in position. He looks furious. His eyes go from blue to bloodshot, and then start to yellow ever so slightly. I raise my gun at him. He smiles. I fire 5 bullets directly into his head as the alarm is raised and the facility is put onto high alert. Soldiers flood in and I am restrained and blindfolded again. I hear whispering between the surgeons and the soldiers as I am dragged off, but I cannot make out what they are saying. I am dragged all the way back and hoisted up the ladder and put into a holding cell once again. After this I was spoken to by the commander. It was the most uncomfortable talk of my life even though I didn't say a single word. He never raised his voice, never changed his tone, but I could feel the absolute malice behind his words. I stayed in that cell for a month until I was transferred to my father's branch. He told me that he begged them for a month straight. He made any promise that he could to get me out of there. What these promises were I don't know. I wasn't really the same after that. Didn't really climb the ranks much, just kind of coasted along. My father bailed me out a lot. I started treating people differently, like they weren't human. I lashed out. I got angry. I abused my fellow soldiers. Then one day something just snapped in me, and I fled over the border during a mission. Presumed dead I suppose. Maybe they thought I killed myself. As far as I know they abandoned the facility sometime after I left. I'm not sure exactly when. The Estonian army were rumored to have taken control of it after the collapse but I'm not sure what came of it. I tried to stay informed but without my old connections there isn't really much else I could learn to tell you.
Mosey on down to the Atomic Shaman Trading Post. We have t-shirts, decals, refrigerator magnets and other swag for sale. What better way to show your support for the show? Our merch can only be found on t.pub/link/Atomic Shaman Trading Post.
Like, share,
Subscribe and be sure to check the notification bell. Follow the Atomic Shaman on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Listen to Paranormal Greentext stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube. Catch the live streams of Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge only on Rumble.